The sun hadn't yet risen when Detective Alicia Carter gripped the steering wheel of her unmarked car, her eyes scanning the quiet streets. She'd taken this route 1,000 times, past the flickering streetlights, the boarded-up shops, the neighborhoods where hope felt like a rumor. But tonight was different. Tonight she wasn't just driving. She was waiting. For what, she didn't know. Until the flash of red and blue lit up her rearview mirror, and her stomach dropped. This wasn't part of the plan. The officer's voice was all business as he approached, flashlight blinding her. "License and registration, ma'am." She could hear the smirk in his tone, the unspoken assumptions. Out too late, wrong part of town, another black face in the wrong place. Alicia's fingers tightened on her badge, hidden in her coat pocket. She'd spent years climbing the ranks, swallowing insults, proving herself in a system that rarely saw her as anything but a threat. Now, here they were, the men she'd soon be leading, treating her like a suspect. She took a slow breath. "Officer," she said, her voice steady, icy calm. "Before we go any further, you might want to check who you're talking to." Across town, 17-year-old Jamal slumped in a bus seat, headphones blaring, trying to drown out the world. The 6 a.m. shift at the grocery store had bled into school, into homework, into this, another endless ride home. His eyes flicked to the pregnant woman standing nearby, her hand pressed to her lower back, face pinched with exhaustion. No one else moved, not the guy in the suit scrolling through his phone, not the teens laughing in the back. Jamal sighed, tugged his headphones. "Down. Here," he muttered, standing up. "Take the seat." The woman blinked, surprise melting into gratitude. "Thank you," she said softly, lowering herself with relief. He nodded, turning away until she grabbed his wrist. "Wait," she said, urgency sharp in her voice. "I need to tell you something." Back on the dim street, the officer's flashlight trembled slightly as Alicia handed over her ID. His partner leaned in, squinting at the badge clipped to her belt. Sarge," he muttered, elbow jabbing the first officer's ribs. The flashlight beam dropped, revealing Alicia's face, stone cold, unflinching. The color drained from the first officer's cheeks. You're the new lieutenant," she finished. "Effective tomorrow, which means you," she glanced at their name tags, "Officer Riggs, Officer Dunn, have just volunteered to join me for an early briefing. Let's discuss why you pulled me over, and how we're going to fix this department." Jamal stared at the folded note the woman had pressed into his palm, the bus long gone. His name was scrawled on the front in looping cursive. Inside, a single sentence made his breath catch. "You don't know me, but I've been watching you, and this changes everything." Below it, an address, a date, and a smudged signature that looked like... No, it couldn't be. The wind picked up, carrying the echo of sirens in the distance. Somewhere, a clock ticked. 2 lives, 2 choices, 2 secrets about to explode. Alicia's knuckles whitened on her badge as Riggs stammered an apology. Jamal's heart pounded as he reread the note, hands shaking. And in the shadows between them, the city held its breath, waiting for the next move. But that's the thing about secrets. Once they start unraveling, there's no stopping what comes next. The fluorescent lights of the precinct buzzed like angry wasps as Alicia strode, past rows of dented metal desks, officers Riggs and Dunn trailing behind her like scolded children. Their boots scuffed the linoleum, but Alicia's steps were sharp, deliberate. She didn't turn around. She didn't need to. She could feel their eyes drilling into her back, a mix of resentment and fear. Good. Let them squirm. Let them wonder how much she'd already uncovered about the routine patrols they'd logged in neighborhoods they'd never stepped foot in. But as she pushed open the door to her new office, still smelling of stale coffee and the previous lieutenant's cigar habit, her confidence wavered. A single file sat on the desk. Her name was on it. Not Lieutenant Carter, just Alicia. Inside, photos, surveillance shots, of her. Jamal's sneakers crunched over broken glass as he stood outside the address scribbled in the note, the moon hidden behind thick clouds. The building was a weathered community center, its mural of a rising sun chipped and faded. He'd almost tossed the note a dozen times. Life-changing, she'd said, but life didn't change for kids like him. Not unless it got worse. Still, here he was. The door creaked open before he could knock. A tall woman with salt and pepper hair smiled, her eyes crinkling at the edges. "Jamal," she said like she'd known him forever. "We've been waiting. For you." Behind her, a hallway glowed with warm light, but all Jamal noticed was the framed photo on the wall, a younger version of the pregnant woman from the bus, arm in arm with a man whose face he'd seen 1,000 times on the news. Alicia flipped through the file, her throat tight. Photos of her buying groceries, pumping gas, dropping off dry cleaning. All time-stamped before she'd even applied for the promotion. A sticky note stuck to the last page. "Welcome to the team. Let's talk loyalty." Her hands shook. This wasn't just a warning. It was a blueprint. They'd been watching. Her longer than she'd been watching them. A knock rattled the door. "Lieutenant?" Riggs hovered in the doorway, holding 2 coffees. His cocky smirk was gone. "Thought you might need this." She eyed the cup. Too friendly, too fast. "Black, right?" he added. Her breath hitched. She took her coffee black. Always had. But Riggs couldn't know that. Unless he'd read the file, too. The woman, Ms. Porter, led Jamal to a cluttered office where the pregnant woman from the bus now sat, her belly round under a sundress. "You came," she said softly. Up close, Jamal recognized her. Not from the street, but from the missing posters plastered downtown last summer. Lila Caldwell, the headline had screamed. Heiress vanishes amid family feud. "You're supposed to be dead," he blurted. Lila's smile tightened. "My brother made sure people thought that." She nodded to Miss Porter, who slid a document across the desk. Jamal squinted at the legalese. "What is this?" "A trust fund," Lila said. "Yours if you help me." Alicia sipped the coffee, bitter. No poison, then. "Mall mercies." "Why'd you really pull me over?" she asked Riggs, leaning back in her chair. He shifted, avoiding her gaze. "Dispatch said the car was stolen." "And you didn't check the plates first?" His jaw twitched. "Orders. From above." She froze. Above. The word hung like a blade. Before she could press, her phone buzzed. A blocked number. A text. "Ask him about the warehouse on 5th. Across the room, Riggs palmed his own phone, his thumb hovering over the screen. Waiting. Jamal stared at the paperwork. His name. His social security number. "Why me?" Lila leaned forward. "Because when I was hiding in bus stations, libraries, pretending to be invisible, you were the only one who saw me, and you didn't ask for anything." She placed a hand on her stomach. "This baby's going to inherit a fortune, but first, I need to prove I'm alive, and I need someone unconnected to help me." Jamal's head spun. "What's in it for you?" Ms. Porter spoke up. "Her brother had her declared dead to steal the estate. We need a witness the courts can't intimidate." Lila's voice cracked. "And I need someone who knows how to disappear." Alicia's screen lit up again, another text. "He's lying." She stood abruptly, chair screeching. "Grab your gear, we're taking a ride." Riggs blinked. "Where?" "You'll see." As they drove, silence thick between them, Alicia studied him. The way his fingers tapped the wheel, Morse code or nerves. The way he'd glanced at the glove compartment 3 times. When they reached the warehouse, she popped it open. Inside, a burner phone, and a photo of her circled in red. Jamal's fingers hovered over the pen. "What happens if I say no?" Ms. Porter's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Then you walk away. But men like your landlord don't stop raising rent. Men like your boss don't stop cutting hours." Jamal flinched. "How did they—" Lila touched his arm. "This isn't charity. I need you, but you need this too." He glanced at the address again. The date. Tomorrow. His shift at the store started at 5 a.m., but his mom's eviction notice Started at midnight. He grabbed the pen. Alicia shone her flashlight over the warehouse door, rusted chains dangling. After you, officer. Riggs hesitated. Lieutenant, I think. The gunshot cracked the air before he finished. Alicia ducked, pulse roaring. Riggs slumped against the car, clutching his shoulder. Sniper, he gasped. They know you're here. The word echoed as Alicia dragged him behind the car, blood slick on her hands. Another shot ricocheted off the hood. Somewhere in the dark, a voice laughed. Welcome to the neighborhood. Lieutenant. Jamal stepped off the bus, the signed papers burning in his backpack. The address was a courthouse. Lila waited on the steps, flanked by cops. Her cops. Ready? She asked. Before he could answer, a black SUV screeched to the curb. A man rolled down the window, Lila's face, but harder, colder. Get in the car, sister, he said, or your little friend learns what happens. To rats. Lila froze. Jamal, run. Alicia pressed her phone to her ear, Riggs' blood staining her sleeve. Dispatch, officer down, send backup. Static crackled. Then a voice. No help coming, Alicia. You should have stayed quiet. The line went dead. Riggs groaned, his breath shallow. They'll pin this on you, he rasped. The file, it's all set up. Sirens wailed in the distance. Closer. Too close. Alicia gripped her gun. Choices. Always choices. Protect herself, or protect the man who'd set her up. Jamal ran. The SUV's engine roared behind him. He ducked into an alley, trash cans clattering. A fence loomed, too high. Footsteps pounded closer. A hand grabbed his hoodie. Not so. Fast, the man hissed. Jamal swung his backpack. The man staggered. Lila's voice screamed from the street. Let him go. A gun clicked. Jamal closed his eyes, but the shot never came. Alicia aimed at the shadows. Show yourself. The sirens were blocks away now. Red and blue lights flashed. Riggs' whisper was barely audible. Check. His phone. She grabbed the burner from the glove box. One text sent an hour ago. She's here. The sender's contact. Unknown. The recipient. Chief Malone. In the alley, the man tightened his grip on Jamal's throat. Should have minded your business, kid. Lila lunged, knocking him sideways. Go! She screamed. Jamal scrambled over the fence, the gunshot ringing out as he ran. He didn't look back. He couldn't. Alicia's screen lit up. A news alert. Breaking. Missing heiress alive. Shootout downtown. The photo showed blurry figures. A woman in a sundress. A teen in a hoodie. Alicia zoomed in. The boy's face, she'd seen it before. On Riggs's desk. A sticky note. Jamal Thompson. Possible witness. Somewhere. A clock ticked. 2 lives. 2 choices. And a city holding its breath.